Welcome to another brand new Mandela Effects video, episode 21. My name is Alltime, and today we're checking out a bunch of amazing stuff. So like the video, subscribe now, and let's get into it. The massive ancient pyramids of Egypt, some of the greatest wonders left in the world, known worldwide for their vast size, striking design, intricate construction, immense complexity, and overall wonder. The pyramids of Giza have inspired countless minds. When one thinks of the Great Pyramids, what else comes to mind? Ancient gods, pharaohs, hieroglyphics, and especially mummies. As mainstream Egyptologists and archaeologists understand the pyramids now, they claim that the pyramids were massive tombs to house great pharaohs after death. But what if I were to tell you that within the Great Pyramids of the Giza Pyramid Complex, no mummies or mummified pharaohs have ever been found? That's right, not a single ancient body has ever been discovered inside the pyramids. In fact, all of the mummies, sarcophagi, and pharaohs ever discovered have been found in locations near the pyramids, but never inside them. Places such as the Valley of the Kings, hidden royal tombs, and cemeteries located all around the pyramids. The belief that pyramids were tombs are largely based on speculation with no hard evidence or bodies to support that claim. For example, one of the most well-known pharaohs was the young Tutankhamun, also known as King Tut. Where was his sarcophagus discovered? In the Valley of the Kings. In fact, I actually covered another Mandela effect regarding King Tut in my Halloween Mandela effects video, link in the description if you want to check that out. So what about Tutankhamun's father, Akhenaten? Where was he buried? Well, which archaeological site he's buried in is still debated to this day, but it's either the royal tomb of Akhenaten in Amarna or the Valley of the Kings. Well, what about Ramses II, also known as Ramses the Great, or Osmandius in Greek? Where was he buried? The East, Valley of the Kings. What about Amenhotep III, also known as Amenhotep the Magnificent? Well, you guessed it, the Valley of the Kings, this time in the Western Valley. So many famous pharaohs, and not a single one of them were ever laid to rest in the Great Pyramids of Giza. I find that not just fascinating, but absolutely astonishing. Not a single body, not a single mummy, not a single pharaoh, nothing. So what do you remember learning? Were mummified pharaohs and sarcophagi laid to rest in the Great Pyramids, or were they always empty? Is this another case of the Mandela effect, or is this something else entirely? What do you think? Has history changed before our very eyes, or is this exactly what you remember? Lightning round. I'm going to ask about 3 Mandela effects in quick succession, and I'd like you to tell me which one you think is correct. These Mandela effects are short and straight to the point, so I figured I wouldn't drag them out. Let's get into it. This classic novel by Oscar Wilde was published in 1890. Is it The Picture of Dorian Gray, or is it The Portrait of Dorian Gray? What do you remember the title to be? The correct answer is The Picture of Dorian Gray, not the portrait, despite it being about the main character's literal portrait. The mysterious and famous French prisoner, called the Man in the Iron Mask. What kind of mask did he wear? Sounds obvious enough, right? Was it an iron mask? Or was it a velvet mask? I know, this doesn't make any sense, but here we are. The Man in the Iron Mask, in fact, never wore an iron mask, but a velvet mask. Neil Armstrong's famous first words on the moon, what were they? Was it, "That's one small step for man"? Or was it, "That's one small step for a man"? Apparently 650 million people watched this happen, so you're bound to have an opinion. So what do you remember? The A is now a part of this quote. That's one small step for a man. And once I heard the A, I couldn't stop hearing it. What do you think?
It's one small step for man. It's one small step for man. It's one small step for man.
Alright, that's it for Lightning Round. What did you think? Did you enjoy this random news segment? Let's talk about the gaming giant Nintendo, specifically regarding the Nintendo Entertainment System launch title, Super Mario Bros. This beloved video game was released in 1985 in Japan and North America, and in 1987 Europe and Australia. Super Mario Bros. Is an instant classic whom many attribute to the revival of video games after the 1983 video game crash. Super Mario Bros. Went on to sell a total of 40 million copies. And over the next few decades, Mario became a billion-dollar franchise for Nintendo. All of this to say, Super Mario Bros. Was insanely popular. So much so, this Mandela effect should affect quite a few of you. So here's my question. In the original Super Mario Bros., when you reach the end of a world, at least for the first 7 times, you're greeted by Toad saying, "Thank you, Mario, but blank, princess is in another castle." Fill in that blank. What goes there? Since tens of millions of people have played this should be an easy answer. Many online seem to remember it as the. Some out there seem to remember it as your. But the accurate phrase is actually, "Thank you, Mario, but our princess is in another castle." Is that what you remember? And if not, which did you remember? There's a lot of debate online about which one came first. Maybe it was changed, maybe it was based off memes. What could have changed it? I don't remember this, I do, back and forth. All kinds of arguing, all kinds of drama. I'm on team the princess, but I'm not as passionate about this as some are online. I mean, I loved playing Mario growing up, but I was more of a Legend of Zelda and Metroid kid. Also, side note, have any of you ever noticed how it looks like Toad is flipping you off in the final scene? How rude. It's been a good long time since we mentioned Charles Lindbergh on this channel. In fact, the last time we talked about him was regarding his missing child, the Lindbergh baby, and the Mandela effect surrounding him. So if you're curious to hear about that one, I talked about it in my brand new Mandela Effects episode 6. Now, Charles Lindbergh became popular because he was the first person to fly across the Atlantic Ocean from New York to France. Because of this incredible feat, he was known around the world. And because of his fame, when his son went missing, it was on headlines of newspapers worldwide. And get this, the American president at the time even called him personally to offer condolences and provide resources to find his son. But here's the new Mandela effect. Charles Lindbergh was given the title of being the very first person to fly across the Atlantic Ocean in an airplane in 1927. Which is now not true. He wasn't the first person to do it. He wasn't the second person to do it. He wasn't even the 20th person to do it. Many others had made the exact same trip across the Atlantic Ocean in an airplane before he ever did. Instead of being the first, Charles Lindbergh was actually the 82nd person to make the trip across the Atlantic. 82nd. I wish I was joking. The first transatlantic flight took place in 1919 by Lieutenant Commander Albert C. Reed. The second transatlantic flight was 3 weeks later by Captain John Alcock and Lieutenant Arthur Brown. In 1924, the first non-stop transatlantic flight was performed by Lieutenant Hal H. Smith and Lieutenant Eric H. Nelson, who took a journey of 26,100 miles around the globe, beginning and ending in Seattle, Washington. From 1919 to 1927, a total of 78 people successfully flew across the Atlantic. By the time Charles Lindbergh finally took his historic legendary flight, a total of 81 people had successfully flown across the Atlantic before him. I mean, it's one thing to have your glory stolen by someone else. It's another thing for others to have not heard of your accomplishments. But 81 people before him? On May 20th, 1927, a cumulative total of 8 years after 81 others had already accomplished the transatlantic flight, the first transatlantic flight was accomplished by Charles Lindbergh, the man who gained world renown for being the first. Except now, he wasn't. He was the 82nd person. Removing his greatest accomplishment removes the credibility and renown Charles Lindbergh had at the time. Right? Why was he so beloved then? Why was he so famous for a feat that 81 others had previously accomplished before him? So let me summarize this Mandela effect. Charles Lindbergh was known for making the first solo non-stop transatlantic flight in 33 hours. But now, he isn't the first in any of those categories. He wasn't the first to make a transatlantic flight, he wasn't the first to do it non-stop, he wasn't the fastest, and he wasn't the first to do it solo. Many others had already accomplished this feat. Charles Lindbergh was the first to get all of the acclaim around the Western world. The newspaper stories, the radio specials, book deals, etc. He wasn't the first to do any of them, and that's the shocking part about all of this. So before you disregard all of the information I've presented based on a quick and lazy 3-second Google search, check out my pinned comment under this video. I'll have sources for you to read and explore on your own time. Mandela effects like this are completely mind-blowing. Or at least they are to me. So what do you think about all this? Was this as absurd to you as it was for me? Let me hear all about it in the comments below. The next thing you're going to tell me is that pizza was originally created in China instead of Italy. Ah, crap. Last time I asked, do you believe in ghosts? And as always, the responses were fantastic. Some believe, some doubt, and others are in between. Well, however you felt, it's a fun topic to talk about. I'm going to compile a bunch of the best of those comments into a future video, but for now, let's give away an Amazon gift card. The winner for this video is Chris Aztec, who said, quote, "I'm so 50-50 with ghosts. I want to believe, but I can't stop being such a skeptic." Here is why I love this comment. It's an honest position, and I feel like a lot of people reside there. Plenty of people want to believe in ghosts, but they haven't experienced something to push them over that line, and that's perfectly fine. A good healthy amount of skepticism, mixed with a truly open mind, can go a long way. That may seem diametrically opposed, but it's strangely not. I've personally seen and captured a ton of strange stuff, which led me to this point today. In fact, I started All Time Scary with the desire to make sense of those weird things that I had experienced. At some point that turned into me talking about Mandela effects, but hey, that's pretty fascinating as well. So whatever you believe, I'm happy to have you here. But yes, there are indeed some spooky things out there. This video's topic is not a Mandela effect in the traditional sense, because it isn't a massive group of people remembering something. This time, it's only one person. But what this one person remembers is fascinating and worthy of discussion because it all relates. Today, we're talking about the song Friday, I'm in Love by The Cure. Originally written and performed by Robert Smith and released in 1992, this song has quite the mystery surrounding its origin. Apparently, Robert Smith had a hard time believing he actually came up with the song Friday, I'm in Love. He believed that he had heard this song somewhere and that it was simply stuck in his head. In his mind, the song already existed. In 2008, he was quoted saying, Friday in Love is not a work of genius. It's almost a calculated song. Since he believed that song already existed, he asked bandmates if they had heard of it. All of them said no. It was like the song just appeared out of nowhere. Robert Smith continues, "It's a really good chord progression. I couldn't believe no one else had ever used it, and I asked so many people at the time. I was getting drug paranoia anyway. I must have stolen this from somewhere. I couldn't have possibly come up with this." Robert Smith reached out to other musically inclined friends to see if they could help him uncover where this melody came from. He said, "I asked everyone I knew. Everyone. I'd phone people up and sing it to them and go, 'Have you heard this before? What's it called?' They'd go, 'No, I haven't heard it.' On the same album, there were songs which I'd slaved over, and I thought at the time were infinitely better, but Friday is probably the song off the Wish album that's the song." Another interesting detail regarding Friday I'm in Love is that it was recorded in the key of D major, but the recorded version was sped up by a quarter tone. In fact, it's the only song in the album Wish that isn't in concert pitch, so it sounds so different compared to everything else. So not only did Robert Smith feel like he heard this song somewhere else, it also sounded like nothing else The Cure had made by that point. This could lead to the conclusion that the song was indeed copied from someone else, but no evidence has ever been brought to light to make that claim. No other version of the song has ever been found, and Robert Smith still swears he heard the song somewhere else. So what's going on? We don't really have a term to describe a personal Mandela effect, but it sounds like Robert Smith really did go through one, whatever it is that we decide to call it. Amazingly enough, this isn't the first time that a popular song was created like this. Apparently, a very similar thing happened to Paul McCartney of the Beatles. One morning he woke up and played a melody that kept playing over and over in his head. It was a song he swore he heard somewhere, but he couldn't place it. As he effortlessly wrote out the song, he became convinced that he was ripping off someone else, but everyone that he played it for had never heard of it. Originally, the words he used to keep the melody were, "Scrambled eggs, Linda has such lovely legs." Over time, Paul McCartney wrote out and improved the lyrics to the song that would eventually become Yesterday, one of the most popular Beatles songs ever. Strangely enough, that concept and the name Yesterday became a major motion picture called Yesterday, released in 2019, with the premise that the band The Beatles never existed, but this one guy remembers them, completely, like it was yesterday. Pun intended. That entire movie took the idea of having a personal Mandela effect and expanded upon the hypothetical of it. Imagine you knowing something that no one else has ever heard of. What do? Do you go crazy? Do you try to explain yourself to the world? Or do you reproduce all of the Beatles songs yourself and gain worldwide acclaim? I'm actually curious to hear what you would do in that situation. Anyway, all of this is so bizarre. Did Robert Smith and/or Paul McCartney simply come up with something from nothing? Did they copy someone else? Was it really just a melody in their head, or was it something else entirely?